The autumn moon hung heavy over Kenji's garden, casting silver shadows across the stone path. He sat on the wooden bench, sake cup warming in his palm, eyes drifting toward the traditional house next door. For 6 months, he'd watched her, Yumeko, the woman who moved like mist and spoke in riddles, whose amber eyes seemed to catch light that wasn't there. She'd arrived in spring, renting the old Tanaka house that had stood empty for years. The neighbors whispered. A woman alone, no family, no history. She kept a garden of white flowers that bloomed at night. Sometimes, Kenji swore he saw a russet tail disappearing around corners, heard the soft padding of paws on his roof at midnight. But it was her smile that had captured him, mysterious and knowing, as if she could read every thought that crossed his mind. They'd shared tea twice, conversations that felt like dances, each word carefully chosen, laden with meaning he couldn't quite grasp. Tonight, emboldened by sake and solitude, Kenji allowed himself the dangerous luxury of honesty. The words slipped out, barely a breath. I want to marry her. The garden went silent. Even the crickets stopped their song. Do you now? Kenji's heart stopped. He spun around to find Yumeko standing behind him, materializing from shadows like she'd been woven from moonlight itself. She wore a silk kimono the color of autumn leaves, her long black hair loose around her shoulders. But it was her eyes that made his breath catch. They glowed with an inner light, amber shifting to gold. I didn't. You were supposed to be asleep. Her lips curved into that enigmatic smile. Oh, Kenji. I hear everything the wind carries. Every whisper, every secret wish. She moved closer, graceful as water flowing. So you want to marry me? He stood, nearly knocking over his sake cup, face burning. Yumeko-san, I apologize. I shouldn't have. Don't apologize for truth. She reached out, one finger touching his chest, right over his racing heart. The contact sent warmth spreading through him like summer sun. But wanting and earning are different things. Earning. He managed to find his voice. Yumeko's eyes sparkled with mischief and something deeper, something ancient. I am not like other women, Kenji. You've suspected, haven't you? The flowers that bloom only for me, the way cats bow when I pass, the fox prints you find in your garden each morning. He nodded slowly, throat dry. She stepped back, and for just a moment, he glimpsed something, a shadow with pointed ears, 9 tails spreading like a fan behind her. Then it was gone, and she was simply a beautiful woman in moonlight. If you truly want to marry me, she said, voice dropping to a purr that made his skin tingle, then prove it. Prove your heart is strong enough, clever enough, true enough to hold a fox's love. The next morning, Kenji found a scroll on his doorstep, tied with red silk. The calligraphy was elegant, the ink still fresh. First trial, cook me a meal that reveals your heart's true flavor. Sunset. My kitchen. Come alone. He spent the day in anxious preparation, visiting 3 markets, consulting his grandmother's recipe book, his mind spinning. What dish could possibly reveal truth? Everything felt inadequate. As the sun touched the horizon, he knocked on Yumeko's door, arms full of ingredients. She answered wearing a simple cotton yukata, hair pinned up, looking heartbreakingly domestic and impossibly ethereal at once. Welcome, she said, stepping aside. The kitchen awaits. Her house smelled of incense and night-blooming flowers. The kitchen was traditional, beautiful, and clearly magical. The knives gleamed with an unnatural sharpness, the pots seemed to whisper, and the cutting board glowed faintly when he set his ingredients down. Everything in this kitchen responds to intention, Yumeko explained, perching on the counter, legs swinging. Cook with deceit, the food becomes ash. Cook with a false heart, it turns bitter. But cook with truth. She leaned forward, eyes bright. Well, we'll see, won't we? Kenji's hands trembled as he began. He'd chosen to make nikujaga, his mother's recipe, simple, humble, comfort food. Nothing fancy, nothing impressive. Just honest. As he cut the potatoes, Yumeko watched him with unnerving intensity. Tell me why this dish. My mother made it when I was sad, he said, focusing on keeping his cuts even. After my father left. After I failed my university entrance exam. When my first girlfriend broke my heart. He paused, meeting her glowing eyes. It's not elegant. It won't impress anyone. But it's real. It's what I know of love, sustaining, warm, always there when you need it. The vegetables began to shimmer as they hit the pot. The broth turned a rich, golden color he'd never achieved before. The whole kitchen filled with an aroma that made his chest ache with nostalgia and longing. Yumeko slipped off the counter, moving beside him. Her shoulder brushed his arm, sending electricity through him. "Keep going," she murmured. "Tell me more." "I'm not wealthy," he continued, stirring carefully. "I'm not particularly handsome or accomplished. I'm a librarian. I read books and help children find stories and live a quiet life." The words tumbled out, raw and unguarded. "But I would learn every myth about foxes, study every legend, just to understand you better. I would." "What would you do, Kenji?" She was so close now he could feel her breath on his neck. "I would love you exactly as you are," he whispered. "Woman, fox, spirit, mystery, all of it. I would make you this simple meal every day and count myself blessed." The pot erupted with light, then settled. The nikujaga was perfect, better than perfect. It seemed to glow from within. Yumeko took the spoon from his hand, tasted it, and her eyes widened. For a moment, she looked vulnerable, almost fragile. "Oh," she breathed. "Oh, Kenji. I can taste everything, your loneliness, your kindness, your patient heart." She set down the spoon with a trembling hand. "I taste devotion. Real, uncomplicated devotion." "Does that mean?" "It means you pass the first trial." She smiled, but there were tears in her glowing eyes. "But there are 2 more." 3 days later, another scroll appeared. This one read, "Second trial. Walk through the whispering forest and reach my shrine before moonrise. The forest knows all feelings. It will show you truth, about yourself, about me, about what loving a fox truly means. Are you brave enough?" That evening, Kenji met her at the forest's edge. The whispering forest was forbidden, locals said. People who entered came out changed, if they came out at all. Yumeko stood waiting, wearing a white kimono with red fox patterns embroidered along the hem. Her hair was adorned with autumn leaves. She looked like a painting, like a prayer. "The forest responds to emotions," she explained, taking his hand. Her skin was warm, soft, impossibly real. "Fear makes it grow thorns. Anger summons storms. But other feelings." She smiled mysteriously. "You'll see. I'll be with you, but I cannot help you. Your emotions must guide the way." They stepped between the trees, and immediately the world shifted. The forest was alive, breathing, watching. The trees leaned in, branches forming patterns overhead. The path disappeared behind them with each step. "Tell me something true," Yumeko said softly, still holding his hand. "The forest demands honesty." "I'm afraid," Kenji admitted. Immediately, thorns began sprouting from nearby bushes. "But not of you. Of not being enough for you." "Why would you think that?" "Because you're extraordinary. You're magic and moonlight and mystery. I'm just careful." Her grip tightened. Self-doubt feeds the forest's darkness. He took a breath, refocusing. "You make me want to be braver. Every day I see you, I think about taking risks I never dared before. Writing the poetry I've kept hidden. Traveling to the places I've only read about. Living louder." The thorns receded. Flowers began blooming along the path, glowing faintly in the gathering dusk. They walked deeper, and the forest began showing him visions. He saw Yumeko running through trees, fox-shaped, wild and free. Saw her with other humans over centuries, relationships that ended in heartbreak, men who feared her power, who tried to cage her, who loved the mystery but rejected the reality. "You've been hurt," he said quietly. "Many times." Her voice was small, UN goddess-like. "Humans are fascinated until they're frightened. They want magic until they face its costs. What costs? She stopped, turning to face him. Around them, the trees leaned back, giving them space. I will never age as you do. I cannot give you conventional children. The village will always whisper about me, about us. My magic attracts danger sometimes, other spirits, jealous yokai. And I. She looked away. I have fox instincts. I'm possessive. Wild. Sometimes I'll disappear for days, running in my other shape, and I won't be able to explain where I've been. The forest waited, watching his reaction. Kenji stepped closer, lifting her chin gently until she met his eyes. I don't want conventional. I want you. Every version, every shape, every mystery. If you disappear for days, I'll wait. If danger comes, we'll face it. If the village whispers. He smiled slightly. Let them. I've spent my whole life being invisible, predictable. Loving you would make me finally, gloriously visible. The forest exploded with light. Flowers bloomed everywhere, trees lifted their branches in celebration, and a path of glowing stones appeared, leading upward. Yumeko's eyes were bright with unshed tears. You mean that? Every word. She kissed him then, soft, brief, tasting of autumn and magic. When she pulled back, she was smiling. The shrine is just ahead. But Kenji, that kiss doesn't mean you've won yet. One more trial remains. What is it? The hardest one. The shrine was ancient, tucked into a clearing where moonlight pooled like liquid silver. Stone fox statues flanked the entrance, their eyes seeming to track Kenji's movement. At the center, surrounded by lit lanterns, stood a small altar with 2 cups and a bottle of sake. The Sansankudo, Kenji breathed, recognizing the wedding ceremony's ritual. The final trial, Yumeko confirmed, her voice solemn. She moved to the altar, transforming before his eyes. More otherworldly now, power radiating from her skin, tails visible in the flickering light, 9 of them spreading behind her like a crimson fan. A true binding. Soul to soul. But we're not married yet. This is just a trial, you said. This binding is permanent, Kenji. Her amber eyes glowed intensely. If we drink from these cups, your soul and mine will be linked forever. You'll feel my emotions, I'll feel yours. You'll have a strand of my magic woven into your life force, and I'll carry part of your humanity in mine. Even if you decide not to marry me after this, even if we separate, we'll never be truly apart again. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. You'll live longer than a normal human, but less than me. You'll have to watch friends age while you barely change. And when I'm in my fox form, you'll feel the pull of transformation yourself, never enough to change, but enough to make you restless, wild. And what do you risk? He asked quietly. Yumeko's tails drooped slightly. Vulnerability. Fox spirits bind only once in our lifetime. If I bind to you and you betray me, reject me, leave me, I'll carry that wound for centuries. I'll become one of those bitter spirits the stories warn about. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I'm risking everything I am on you being who you seem to be. The forest around them had gone completely silent, as if the entire spirit world held its breath. Kenji looked at the cups, at the beautiful, powerful, frightened woman before him. This wasn't a game or a romantic story. This was real, more real than anything he'd ever faced. If I say no, he asked, then we part as friends. I find another place to live. You forget me eventually, I'll make sure of it, a small mercy. You live your normal life, find a normal woman, have a normal family. Normal sounds terrible now, he said, and saw her lips quirk slightly. But Yumeko, I need to ask, why me? Truly. You could have anyone, anything. Why risk yourself on a quiet librarian? She moved closer, cupping his face with both hands. Because you see me. Not the mystery, not the magic, me. The woman who gets lonely. Who loves terrible romance novels. Who burns dinner when she's distracted. Who sings off-key in the bath. Her thumbs stroked his cheeks gently. You looked at me that first day we met, and your thoughts were so loud, she seems sad. I wonder how I could make her smile. Not how can I use her power, or how can I possess this beautiful creature. Just simple kindness. That's all it took. Kindness is the rarest magic, Kenji. He covered her hands with his, holding them against his face. His heart thundered, but his voice was steady. Then let's bind ourselves. Soul to soul. I choose you, all of you, all the costs, all the complications. I choose this extraordinary life over any normal one. Yumeko's breath caught. You're sure?
Pour the sake.
Her hands trembled as she filled both cups. They sat across from each other at the altar, the ancient ritual playing out under moonlight. 3 sips each, alternating, their eyes locked throughout. With the first sip, Kenji felt warmth spreading through his chest. With the second, he gasped as emotions not his own flooded in. Her nervousness, her hope, her bone-deep loneliness finally finding its answer. With the third, the world exploded into sensation. He felt her magic intertwining with his soul, felt his humanity anchoring her wildness. For a moment, he saw through her eyes, saw himself as she saw him, steady, warm, safe, home. And he felt what she felt, centuries of waiting, of disappointment, of guarded hope finally rewarded. When the world solidified again, they were both gasping. Yumeko's tails had wrapped around them both, drawing him closer. I feel you, she whispered. Your heart is beating in my chest. And yours in mine. He cupped her face, drawing her into a deep kiss, this one not brief or chaste, but hungry, claiming. She melted into him with a soft sound, her power crackling around them, making his skin tingle. Kenji woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and Yumeko curled against his side, her head on his chest. One of her tails was draped over his legs like a blanket. She was still in her true form, woman and fox intertwined, beautiful and strange and his. Last night, after the binding, they'd stumbled back to her house, unable to keep their hands off each other. The connection between their souls made every touch electric, every kiss an exchange of emotion as much as affection. They'd made love slowly, reverently, learning each other's bodies while their souls sang in harmony. He'd traced the patterns on her skin where fox met woman, and she'd gasped at how his touch felt doubled, physical sensation and emotional resonance combined. She'd shown him how her magic responded to pleasure, making the room glow, flowers blooming in impossible places. They'd laughed and gasped and whispered confessions until dawn. Now, in the quiet morning, Kenji felt the weight of what they'd done settling over him, not regret, but wonder. He could feel her dreaming, sense the contentment radiating from her sleeping mind. I can feel you watching me, she murmured without opening her eyes. Is that how it'll always be? Knowing what the other feels? Mostly. We can learn to shield, to give each other privacy. But yes. She finally opened her eyes, amber and warm in the morning light. Having second thoughts. Never. He kissed her forehead. But we should probably talk about the practical things. Marriage certificates. Where we'll live. Do fox spirits even do legal paperwork? She laughed, the sound pure joy. We do if we're marrying librarians who worry about such things. She sat up, the sheet pooling around her waist, unself-conscious in her mixed form. But Kenji, before we plan weddings and paperwork, there's something you should know. His heart jumped. What? The trials weren't really about testing you. She touched his chest, right over his heart. I knew after our first tea ceremony that you were different. The trials were about testing me. Making sure I was brave enough to let someone in again. Making sure I could be vulnerable enough to deserve you. Yumeko. I chose you, too, she said firmly. I chose you that first day, and every day after. This bond works both ways. Your soul is bound to mine, yes, but mine is bound to yours just as strongly. I'm trusting you with centuries of loneliness and hurt and hope. Her eyes shimmered. Don't waste it. Never, he promised, pulling her back down into his arms. Though I make no promises about my cooking. Last night was probably beginner's luck. She snorted, nuzzling into his neck. The kitchen is enchanted, love. You literally cannot burn food in it now that we're bound. Convenient. I thought so. They lay in comfortable silence, the morning sun warming them, the soul bond humming contentedly between them. Outside, Kenji could hear the neighbors starting their day, normal people living normal lives, unaware that two souls had bound themselves together under moonlight, that magic was alive and well in the old Tanaka house. So, Yumeko said eventually, propping herself up on one elbow. How long before you introduce me to your family as your yokai bride-to-be? Kenji groaned. Can we wait until after I've processed the fact that I can feel your amusement radiating through our soul bond? Absolutely not. Your grandmother's going to love me. My grandmother thinks fox spirits steal men's souls and lead them to ruin. Well, Yumeko grinned, tail swishing playfully, she's not entirely wrong. He captured one of those tails, making her gasp. Troublemaker. You're troublemaker now, she said, eyes darkening with renewed interest as his hand stroked along her tail, the touch sending pleasure through both their bond and her body. Forever and always. Promise. I bound my soul to yours, silly man. It's a little late for cold feet. Kenji pulled her close, kissing her deeply, feeling her joy and desire and love flowing into him through their connection. Outside, autumn leaves danced in the wind. Inside, a librarian and a fox spirit began their forever, one unlikely day at a time. And if the neighbors whispered about strange lights and laughter coming from the old Tanaka house, about the couple who seemed to communicate without words, about fox prints that appeared in both gardens each morning, well, some mysteries were meant to remain unsolved. Some love stories were meant to be extraordinary.